Welcome back to New York's Business Podcast. My name is Jacob Restituto. I'm the host and owner of Restituto Media, a full-service photo and video company here on Long Island. Today I'm joined with Adam from Sound, Body, and Mind here in Huntington. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming. So my name's Adam. I'm the owner here at Sound, Body, and Mind. We're a yoga studio in Huntington, New York. We've been open for about 8 years. Previously, in my career before we opened the studio, when I say we, my wife is an owner in the studio as well. I worked in sports marketing in Manhattan, had a corporate job. You know, it was a great job for its purpose for several years. I worked in it for about a decade, splitting my time in traditional advertising, and then the second half of my career focused more on sports marketing. And I liked the people I was working with, but ultimately I knew that a corporate job was just not for me. I didn't like being tied to the desk and the grind of corporate America, and I really wanted to just kind of do my own thing. So my wife and I were trying to figure out, what's a good business for us? What could be something that we could potentially go out and do on our own? So we decided between both of our passion points. She at the time was a health writer and also a yoga instructor and a nutritionist. So she checked a lot of boxes for like a yoga and wellness center type of business. For me, I always had a passion for fitness. I always had a passion for business. So I kind of tried to marry my passions with hers. And so when we first opened actually downstairs for our first 3 years in business, it was a yoga, fitness, and nutrition studio. So we offered all of that. So we were doing personal training, we were doing group fitness classes, circuit training, yoga classes primarily, also nutritional counseling as well. So we were kind of trying to check a lot of boxes, and I think that was good at the time. But over time, we sort of narrowed our approach to the business to focus mostly on yoga, primarily on yoga. So that's where we're at now. And that was, again, the first 3 years when we were downstairs, that was sort of the business model. But then as we expanded and evolved after our first 3 years, we moved up here to this bigger space. And we focused it on being more of primarily a yoga studio.
I want to hear a little bit more about why you decided to focus on the yoga aspect of it, because some businesses thrive having several different, you look at certain gyms and stuff and they offer several different types of classes. They offer the regular gyms and stuff, or even personal training. And then some are super boutique and super specific.
Yeah.
Or just any sort of industry, right? I'm curious as to your decision on that.
Yeah, I love that question. So I think that boutique fitness studios or, yoga studios, if you're picking a lane that you want to focus in, I think the way that you show value, separate from a bigger box gym, like a Gold's, like a Lifetime, a YMCA, those gyms are great. They offer a lot of different things for their clients. They offer all the different kinds of classes within their fitness spaces, but then they're a gym primarily. So those classes that they're offering, in my opinion, are just not going to be as good as a studio or a boutique space that's specializing in those types of fitness. So for yoga, the things that you're going to get at a yoga studio that you might not get at a gym, you're going to get a much more robust class schedule. You're going to get the ambiance, the vibe, the space that's more suitable for a yoga class, like the atmosphere, or just it's the vibe. But the main thing is the quality of the instruction. Like you're just going to get much better quality instructors in my opinion, at a yoga studio. And I think that serves true to anything, whether it's Pilates, whether it's boot camp classes. Like there's a certain community that's built within those different types of studios. You're just not going to get that at a gym. So I think if you just stay in one lane, that's going to be your best path to success versus trying to be a boutique studio that's trying to offer everything that a gym does. Let the gym be that. Let the gym be the service that can offer everything, and they're doing it at a relatively lower price point. Be the specialized studio that's going to offer that one thing, but exponentially better than the gyms. Mm-hmm. And then that's how you're going to stand out, because even people with gym memberships that have yoga classes available to them are going to still maybe have a dual membership or a second membership at your yoga studio, your Pilates studio, whatever it is, because they want a higher quality class for that one thing that might be the thing that they love the most.
You mentioned standing out, and I'm curious, as with all business, whether you're an accountant, whether you're in the food industry, a musician, there's always competition, right?
Yeah.
So there's other yoga studios around.
Sure.
What do you think makes you guys stand out as a studio?
I think every studio finds their niche. They find their audience. They do things to stand out that attracts, different types of clientele. Even like the yoga community. I think that it's great to have competition. I think it's great that there are more studios opening now post-pandemic, not just in the Huntington area, but in the nearby towns.
Because why do you think that is, the post-pandemic opening a studio?
A lot of things closed down. So a lot of things closed down during the pandemic because they just couldn't withstand the stresses of it financially or whatever else.
So new businesses are opening.
Yeah. So I mean, for a little while, we were one of the very few shows in town. So it's interesting that like post-pandemic, we actually did very well. We still do very well, but there wasn't a lot of competition at that time. But now over the years, in the last few years, you're seeing not just yoga, because everything is technically taking from your potential clientele, whether it's Pilates, whether it's boot camp, whether it's cycling. People just get into a great habit of something that they love, and they might stick with that for a while. And that's still somebody that could potentially be a client. But I think that is going back to the question as far as competition is concerned, and everybody doing things differently. I think you just have to do what's true to you and the type of clientele that you're trying to attract. Whether you're a hot studio or a heated studio or our studio, we don't have hot classes. So I think that naturally attracts a little bit of a different clientele. So I think you just kind of have to do what's true to you, and not really worry so much about what everybody else is doing.
How do you attract your clientele? What are you doing to gain new customers?
So when we first opened, I hit the ground running on trying to get as much press as possible. So with a marketing background, I worked with News 12, we worked with Newsday, we worked with various local publications to offer value to them, to bring stories to them about our studio that would fit within their publications. And by doing that, we got a lot of free press. Also in the beginning, we would do Facebook ads, social media ads.
Did the free press work?
I think so. I think the free press is great because it's coming from a trusted source. It's something that's easily shareable online, which in my opinion is going to get just as much traction as like a paid ad. So I think that was very good for us in the beginning. We haven't done much of that in a while. We've had some TV filmings here recently, which have been great. We did American Horror Story, filmed here, and that was really great. Got a lot of attention for us. But in the beginning as well, we were on Groupon. So Groupon's not something I recommend for every type of business, but I think as a fitness business, any sort of service business where you don't have like a cost of goods that you're getting hurt on, like a restaurant, I think Groupon could be good just to get started. I wouldn't recommend staying with it. We've been off it for many years now, but for the first few years when it was just all about getting as many people through the door as possible, that's where something like that can work well for you because you're basically just paying for marketing. Like they do an expansive job of getting in front of a lot of people. And I was okay with people coming in at a much lighter cost at the time just to get people in the door because ultimately what you want to rely on is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that's the strongest marketing tool you could have is good reviews online, good ratings across all platforms, and people talking about your business in a positive light. That's how you're going to get people in. When I'm talking about restaurants that I'm going to go to in the area, it's usually from friends or family. Sure. Right? They're telling you this place was awesome. And if they tell you a place isn't great, you're probably not going to check it out. So just relying on just getting the word out there through the community organically, I think is the most powerful thing you can do. And when you first open, getting as many people in the door, however you can, in order to get that as a byproduct is a really good approach.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about your Groupon experience because I think that is a really interesting opportunity for a lot of businesses that are starting up. Yeah. Again, like you said, you've been off it for a while at this point, but starting up and for businesses that are listening to this, it could be a potentially great opportunity for them. Yeah. How does the back end work? Do you pay for the service or do they just, when somebody books through you, do they just charge through that? How does that work?
So you don't pay for anything, right? The way that you're paying is that you are offering a heavy discount on your services and then Groupon's taking a percentage. So in a sense, it's, especially if you're just starting out, and let's just say you have a little bit of a tight budget or you don't want to spend a lot on marketing, it's essentially free marketing. As long as you're willing to let people come through the door at a discounted price, which is why I'm saying for a service, it works well because if you're a restaurant and you're offering 50% off, you have to factor in all the cost of goods and things like that. And I think that probably could be not good if I had to guess. Could be the kiss of death for a restaurant. When you're offering a service like this and you can afford to allow people to come in at a discounted price, especially in a class setting, like it doesn't cost me more to have more people in here. I'm only gonna get benefits from having more people in the door, providing them with a good service and a good experience, and allowing them to go out and tell more people about it. And then when the Groupon was over at the time, to buy something at full price. Over time though, the operations of it just became a bit of a pain, and ultimately it just wasn't good for our business anymore. Once we grew to a certain point, I just didn't see the value in it. So we stopped after only a couple of years of using it. But I think starting out, it's a pretty good tool.
Are you still actively marketing, or is it all just kind of word of mouth at this moment?
I haven't spent $1 on marketing in, I can't even remember the last time.
Wow.
And again, that's because we rely on things like ratings. So get the word out, like on Google, right? Google ratings, to me, if you're looking for a yoga studio or a new place to go check out, I think a lot of people are going to Google first. They're looking for yoga near me, restaurants near me. And if you find your way to float to the top over years with getting a lot of good reviews, you're gonna get a lot of business that way. So between relying on ratings, reviews, and getting new business through good SEO, so being, after a certain amount of time with a website, as you know, your SEO improves, and finding ways to improve your SEO over time so that you're floating to the top when people search for yoga in Huntington that's your advertising. You don't have to pay for marketing after that. You did it yourself. So one of the ways that I like to drive our SEO is for other reasons as well, but we require signing up for class online. And operationally, we have reasons for that. So, but on top of which, I'm naturally driving a lot of traffic to our website every single day that otherwise wouldn't have been there if you're just letting people show up for class. Hundreds of people every day, every week that are going to your website to sign up that you might not have gotten. So doing things like that to drive up into the SEO rankings for Google, I think after a while, you don't really necessarily need to rely on paid advertising.
See, that's interesting because a lot of businesses would likely convert to an app and say, "Oh, you just sign up through the app," but they would be losing on the SEO opportunity there.
Yeah. So we work with MindBody, which is one of the bigger fitness apps that's offered. It's a scheduling software, and all of our payment processing goes through it and everything. And like any other app, they offer you the opportunity to take your website and make it an app, or do everything through their app. I would much rather our members schedule classes through our website than their app. And they always try to push me to have people use their app. And I say to them, why am I pushing my online traffic to your platform rather than mine, when you're giving me a mobile widget that makes it very easy to schedule classes through our website? It's the exact same thing, just on our platform. So no, I would much rather people come to our website. And there's very easy ways to bookmark a website and make it an app on your own phone. So you don't have to have like a fancy app to accomplish those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned word of mouth and essentially marketing through that, but also SEO and traffic and getting good ratings.
Yeah.
And speaking of good ratings, I saw that you guys were featured in Entrepreneur Magazine as one of the top rated businesses in America. Yeah. Can you speak on that? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So it was one of those like very pleasant surprise emails that you get as a business owner. This was recognition that we didn't submit for. We didn't even know that the award existed. But every year, Entrepreneur Magazine basically ranks the top businesses in the entire country. They do it by category, whether it's fitness, restaurants, what have you. And they reached out to us and they basically let us know that we were selected as one of the top businesses in the entire country for 2024. And the way that they did that was they worked with Foursquare, which is a data technology company, and they scrubbed the internet for 100 different data points to find the top businesses in the country. And we were one of them. And going back to talking about ratings, one of the data points that they obviously were looking at were reviews, ratings. They look at foot traffic. They look at things like social media. So like your online presence is huge. I don't think without building that up over time, we would have gotten that recognition. And one of the things that they featured us for within that specific issue was talking about Google reviews, because we have a perfect 5-star Google review.
Wow.
So they asked, what do you do to combat, have you ever gotten a bad review? Like, what do you do to combat that issue? And I explained, we had one bad review in the 8 years that we've been in business. So when we got that one bad review, I knew who the person was because they'd been to the studio before, so I called her, and I spoke to her about the issue, and I came off understanding to her problem. We talked through the whole thing. By the end of the conversation, she saw my point of view, I saw hers. We came to an understanding, and without me even mentioning the review or asking her to take it down, within an hour it was gone.
Wow.
So I think it's about how you handle those bad reviews if you ever get them. You see sometimes people will go online and they might fight back at a review, and I think it puts the business owner and the business in a bad light, because people read those things. They read how the business responds. If you respond and you kind of explain your point of view and you explain, that you're apologetic, or is there something else that we can do, people read that, and the review almost can turn into a positive, because they see that businesses screw up all the time. But it's the way that you handle it that's going to show. It's going to show like the character of your ownership, of your service, and of your business. So sometimes it's just about how you respond to it.
Yeah, it's really interesting as a business owner. This is a personal experience. That my wife and I will go out to some restaurant, or that doesn't have to be any sort of business, right? Yeah. And there may be a poor experience in somewhere, and I can see how the business owner, essentially, I feel like dropped the ball. It's like, man, they could, like, this obviously messed up here.
Sure.
Everybody does, whatever. But the way they handled it after the fact, it just, because I guess as a business owner, it leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. For sure. Where other people, for example, like, they just don't even notice it. But I'm like, man, like, that the opportunity here, like, I'll probably never come back, because this could have been so much better. And maybe I'm overly judgmental on that, because it's just, I just see the opportunities. Like, man, I would have handled that so differently. You know?
And I think that's a shared point of view from a lot of people, is when you're going to any business for a service or for a meal, whatever it is, obviously the experience of whatever it is, it's the meal or the class matters, but it's how you're treated. You got to be nice to people. You have to show people that you care. You have to show that if they're unhappy, you want to do what you can to make them happy. And if you don't do that, then you're not going to make a connection with that customer. And I think the connections are extremely important. I think some of the most successful businesses you see are when you see the owners, the staff, hugging, having deep conversations with their clientele. They're not just a number walking through the door. They remember your name. So I think that's important. And I completely share the same perspective as you. Is when we're in a restaurant or wherever and we see something not handled correctly, the best negative review you could do, to your point, you just don't go back.
I think one of the reasons that it's such an opportunity, or sometimes missed opportunity, is because typically every time you go into any establishment, restaurant, gym, bar, clothing store, they always start off as transactional. Sure. It's a transactional relationship. Yep. However, as soon as something happens, good or bad, it becomes an emotional transaction, right? As opposed to just like a financial transaction or an experiential transaction. Those emotional transactions hold so much more weight in the human mind. Sure. So for example, like you go into anywhere, we could say a clothing store, and something happens, and right, it starts just transactional financially, and then as soon as something happens and you're upset, and now you're emotional, and that emotion can go either way, but you're emotionally driven now, so you feel a lot closer to it. So if they handle it well, now your emotion is significantly stronger towards them, or in the opposite direction if they handle it poorly. Yeah. I actually heard of an entrepreneur once. He said he was opening up a restaurant, and he said, I actually intend to mess things up for the customer, so that we have an opportunity to make it so much better for them, to make up for the mistake. Like let's send them out the wrong plate intentionally, and when they say, hey, this is just, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, let us whatever, right? And it's a real, it's like, because then the customer's like, wow, they really went above and beyond. And that's where, how many times when the opportunity, something's messed up, and I say, then I go home with my friends and be like, you would never believe all the time what happened. And then how much, like, that's beautiful marketing there.
And that goes back to word of mouth. Like it all comes down to it. When a new business opens, the first couple months are crucial to getting a good reputation in the community. And you have to sustain a good reputation as much as possible. And that's where reviews come back into play. But if right off the bat, people are saying bad things about your business, bad experiences, they didn't handle this problem correctly, whatever it is, you're losing a lot of business right away, because people get excited. They see a new business open up, they're ready to try something new. And if you get bad reviews from a peer before you had the chance to visit, you're probably not going to go there.
Ever.
Yeah. you might end up there because a
And
friend.
if you do, you end up being jaded when you go there.
Yes.
So your experience is already tainted.
Yes. So it is incredibly important to leave good first impressions, and recognizing as a business owner, when someone new is walking through the door, not that you should treat your clients any different, but recognize that that's a new person. Make a connection with them. Make them feel welcome. Know their name. Smile. Talk to them about something outside of fitness or whatever the service is. Ask them about their life. That's how you make a connection. And as a business owner, it's going to make you enjoy your job more. Just to know that you are part of your own community and talking to the people that are making your business possible. Like, why wouldn't you want to make those connections with people? These are the people that are supporting your business, supporting your life, supporting your dream. So, do your best to just like make them feel like they're at like their home away from home.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So going forward, where do you guys see the business going? What does that look like?
It's a good question. So when we first opened, I wasn't sure what was going to happen at all. Like I said, I was working a corporate job, and I knew that I valued my time as much as I valued the amount of money that I was making. So I always try to remember how much I value my time when I'm thinking about what am I going to do next. Because I used to work 10, 12 hours a day. I used to get on the train at 6:37 in the morning. I wouldn't get home until 7 at night. And this was before I had a family, before I had my daughter. And I knew that there was no way I was going to sustain that forever. There was no way I was going to never see my kid for any part of the day other than bedtime. So I knew that my time was the number one value asset that I had. So when I think about what I'm going to do next, sometimes I think I'm just content with what this business is doing. This business is doing very well. It's doing better than I ever imagined. And I'm very fortunate to say that. And the idea of opening a second studio, I'm not saying it won't happen, because it's something where we could open another studio and my wife could run that one where I'm running this one. So in theory, I'm still keeping my same time, value proposition, so to speak. So I don't know. Until I'm not going to jump at opening another space or another business until I feel like it's one of those like perfect scenario, I have to jump on it type of thing. So I'm not like actively searching. If it comes to me and we find something that I think could be a good opportunity, and I still think I can retain that time commodity, then I'll do it.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on that really quickly with time. You mentioned time, and obviously it takes a lot of time to run the studio, but you're not running all the classes anymore, or I don't even know if you just did at the beginning. But I want to talk about employees or people that are running the classes.
Sure.
I'm curious, from your standpoint, are they like W-2 or W-9 employees? Do you take them on as actual staff, or are they just contractors, and why you decided to do whichever you chose?
Yeah, so all of our staff is independent contractors. So I don't have a front desk person. I don't have a marketing person. I don't have a cleaning service. All the things that I just mentioned, I do all of that. The only thing that I don't do at the studio myself is teach the classes. I used to teach some of the fitness classes. I'm yoga certified. I've subbed classes. I've taught yoga classes before. My wife, when we first opened, taught half the schedule. But neither of us have taught, since we had our daughter, neither of us have taught a class in years. So our staff are all yoga instructors. And since they're independent contractors, from a business perspective, that makes things easier. From accounting perspective, all those things.
So why was that your decision? Like, what made you decide that over a W-2 employee?
Yeah, so we just found that working with independent contractors just worked best for our business.
So speaking about those contractors and I want to talk about the hiring process,
Sure.
but also the retention rate. Like, what do you do to keep? Actually, I want to talk about retention for employees or staff,
Sure.
but also as customer retention.
Yeah.
What are you actively doing to keep your staff here, and what are you doing to actively keep members here?
So with staff, we're very particular about the hiring process and who we hire. We only hire instructors with significant experience. I have to meet the instructor, obviously, and they have to fit the vibe of the studio in terms of just being a friendly person that's looking to build connections with our community. So usually a lot of our instructors recently have been members first, but I knew they were instructors. And after a time of me building a connection with them, we ended up hiring them because I knew they were good people. I knew that they were experienced, as an instructor, and they were fitting within the community, and people knew who they were and things like that. In terms of retaining those instructors, I think it's just about treating people well. Like any job you go to, your staff is going to be retained if they feel like they're being treated well. They're going to be retained if you're doing good by them. So all of our staff take unlimited classes here at no cost. We don't charge for that. I can't imagine other studios doing any different, but that's what we do. So I think it's just ultimately just treating them well, and giving them a studio that is easy for them to manage. So what I mean by that is going back to the fact that everybody has to sign up for classes online in advance. When our instructors get here, they come and they teach. They just teach. They talk with the community, and then they're done. They don't have to work the front desk in terms of dealing with paying customers and things like that. Everybody's signed up. So they work the front desk in the sense that they are checking people in, but it's as simple as that. It's like taking attendance for everybody that's already there. So I think we just make their lives as easy as possible so they can come in and do what they love, which is teach yoga. They don't want to come in here and be a front desk person and picking up the phones or sweeping the floors and things like that. They want to come, they want to teach, they want to do what they were trained to do. And so I think that's one of the ways that we can help retain the staff. As far as our members, I think it's kind of the same thing. You just treat people well. Treat people well, give them a service that is valuable to them. Do it at a fair price. Our monthly memberships, I purposely price very fairly because we're competing with gyms that are priced lower and lower. I feel like when I was in high school, the gyms cost the exact same as they do now. I feel like it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So we have to compete with that. People are going to make the choice between, am I going to go to a gym or am I going to belong to a boutique studio, or is it going to be both? So if you can offer an unlimited membership at a somewhat affordable price, then you can find members that have a YMCA membership and a sound membership, or they just do the one, whatever the case may be. So that's how we retain our members.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about how you treat people, and it's one of the hardest but easiest things to do at the same time. Obviously, sometimes it can be honestly easy, but when you're dealing with people, sometimes it's like, what is going on in your brain right now? And it's
tough. It's tough. I mean, you get a very large variety of people that walk through that door.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready for it all. The nicest people in the world, disgruntled people, whatever you don't know where someone's coming from that day. You don't know what they went through that morning, that week. You just have to meet them where they are. And as long as you're being friendly to them and you're smiling every time they see you, you can't expect to make the same connection with everybody, but you really just have to make people feel comfortable and happy when they're here. And that's what's going to keep them here. Yeah. If they come in and they don't feel like they're seen, they don't feel like they're being recognized and making a connection with not just you, but like the other members at the studio, you're not really giving them a reason to come back, because they can find a yoga class or a fitness routine anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And based on price point, they could probably find something cheaper, but because if there's no connection there, then there's no community, and
right.
Typically those prices are cheaper.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you find in the boutique gyms or the boutique studios, the prices are more expensive, but there's also significantly more community. So you're also not only paying for the more typically the better quality of product, but you're also paying for the better quality of experience. It's such a better. I've had the experience of going to a box gym and also a boutique studio, and the box gym was fine. Yeah. But I went, saw the same people every day, never said hi to them. Now I'm part of the, I get there at 4:30 in the morning and the same people are there at 5 a.m. every single day. And now we have conversations every day. We know 100%. What's going on. Oh, how was you? Oh, your kid was sick last week. Are they feeling better? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm willing to pay for that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But if you're charging that and you're not providing that, well, then why would I come here? And I would go somewhere else, right?
People undervalue the community aspect of gyms and of fitness. And I remember very specifically during COVID reading several articles, people publishing the fact that gyms are dead now. There were so many online opportunities, whether it was through Peloton or just YouTube videos or anything else, that people were finding, oh, this works better with my schedule, I can do it at home. So people were writing off gyms, saying there's no reason. I laughed at those articles knowing that those people just fundamentally misunderstood that community is the number one driver to people going out of their house to work out. And that's one of the reasons, to your point, why boutique studios can thrive, is because there's a much stronger community that you can find within those types of facilities. You're not going to get that online. You're not going to get that potentially in the bigger box gyms. And that's why our types of businesses have a niche in the fitness industry, is because of that community aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. So wrapping it up, I want to ask you this typical last question that I like to ask is here you are 8 years into your business, you know significantly more now than you did when you first started off. What is one piece of advice you would give it to yourself opening this studio on the first day?
The one piece of advice is that I think with any business, there's going to be, throughout the year, there's going to be these ups and downs of whether it's attendance, whether it's finances, and you're going to find yourself in the beginning, what are we doing wrong? Why are we all of a sudden 10% less this month than last month? Or why is attendance 10% less this month? It's going to happen no matter what stage of the business that you're in. And you just have to get comfortable with the ebbs and flows of the business. And you have to understand that you're not going to be constantly on an upward trajectory. You're going to have to understand that you're going to have a good month, you're going to have a good week, you're going to have a decent week, and you can't predict why that is. You can say, oh, it's the holidays, oh, it's the weather. It's just part of owning a business. And as long as you can understand that at the end of the year, when you look at your numbers and everything, that you netted out where you wanted to net out, the next years in business, you're just gonna be a little bit more comfortable. So I've gotten to the point now where I won't stress as much about a bad week or an off month or whatever it is, because it's been happening for 8 years. You go through ups and downs, and it needs to be expected. And it's just, once you settle into that idea, you're just going to be way more comfortable.
Adam, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so
very
much.
Appreciate it.
And wrapping it up, if you are a business owner and you are interested or know anybody that you think would be a good fit for this podcast, send me a message, and definitely check out Adam's studio here. And we appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.